batter's box, sir.
So which bill am I supposed to be presenting, Mr. Chairman?
Doug and Lafayette, we have House Bill 2304. Virginia Residential Landlord Act Disclosure of Relationship.
I think this is it. So I believe Chip Dix wrote it up, a substitute form. I don't know if you had that in front of you. There was amended language to deal with this issue.
Jessica, can you help us with
Okay.
that?
So could y'all pass it by temporarily?
We'll go by there temporarily.
All right.
Because I've waited.
I think there's piecing it out, but I don't have that language in front of me.
Sure. We will just see Doug and Austin.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment in form of substitute. Should be, clerk should have it.
Thank you, Doug and Austin.
Yes, sir.
The substitute be adopted without objection.
Mr. Chairman, what the substitute does in the bill, it changes from 5 years to 180 days, the terms associated with the holding of the property. So that's the change to the bill. You ready for me to explain the bill, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doug and Austin.
Mr. Chairman, whenever any department, agency, or institute of the state of government possesses or has under its control state-owned or leased properties that is not being used to its full capacity, it must notify the Department of General Services. The department shall review the land use plan, the records, and inventory required to determine whether a property or any portion thereof should be declared surplus or the needs to the Commonwealth. Current law requires the department to take surplus designated property and sell it by public auction, sealed bid, or through a real estate broker. This bill would require the Department of General Services to first allow the chief administrative officer of the locality, as well as an economic development entity, to make a bid on the property. If neither wants to bid, it will be sold by public auction, sealed bid, or through a real estate broker. So basically, that's the intent. The intent is to give localities the privilege of first refusal where this property could be used for economic development or would benefit the community rather than have it sold.
Yes, sir, Doug and Austin. And again, that option is for 90 days.
180 days. Yes, sir.
Sure. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir.
Does any members have a question of the patron? Anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill or opposed?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Mike Woods with Troutman Sanders. We represent the Virginia Economic Developers Association. We brought forth this legislation, been working with DGS on this. That's why it's been moved to finally today and working on the language there. And the main purpose of the bill is just to give economic developers another tool in the toolbox so that if there's a piece of surplus property that's available, the economic developer has a bona fide economic development project, they could hold that land up to 180 days. If that does not go through, the project doesn't take place, reverts back to DGS. So we would appreciate it if the committee would pass the legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Woods.
Mr. Chairman, there is a companion bill in the Senate to this bill.
Thank you, Doug and Austin. Does anybody in the audience like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is the members? We have a motion to report. Who seconded? We also have to report and refer to appropriations.
That was my motion.
All right. Members shall vote. Yes. Refer by vote of 7 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
So next up is Delegate Hessel.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this House Bill 2632 has to do with the expansion of the Board of Veterans Services. This year, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, there's a bill to have the Virginia War Memorial Board sunsetted on January 1, 2020. Adding 3 seats to the Board of Veterans Services, that will be 1 senator, 1 delegate, 1 citizen member as voting members, will ensure the continued robust support for the Virginia War Memorial and its director. The 3 new members will be assigned to the War Memorial for their point of contact assignment. And this will give the director 4 members as points of contact. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the chairman of the Virginia War Memorial Foundation Board will be added as an ex officio voting member. This is a housekeeping bill to ensure the Board of Veterans Services is able to fulfill its code-mandated duties regarding the Virginia War Memorial and Department of Veterans Services. I would add, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that there is a light bill in the Senate that has a great deal of support.
All right, thank you, Delegate Hessel. Does any members have a question for the delegate? Are there any folks in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill? Any opposition? Excuse me, everybody from,
No opposition, I move to approve.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Carrie Ann Alford from the Department of Veterans Services. This is one of our agency bills. We thank Delegate Hessel and he'll be with support.
thank you. We have a motion to report been seconded. Any further discussion? Members shall vote. Bill reports 7-0. Thanks, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Delegate Carr.
Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along the lines of the HB 26772 clarifies the role of the Shrine of Memory within the Virginia War Memorial and clarifies the remaining language about the role, functions, and purposes of the Virginia War Memorial. For some background information, the War Memorial was dedicated in 1956, and when the code section was added, the Shrine of Memory was the only permanent physical structure on the grounds of what we now refer to as the Virginia War Memorial. With the second construction expansion project scheduled to be complete in 2020, this is a good time to clarify the code as to the various parts of the memorial and the specific function of the Shrine of Memory. In the past decade, there have been misunderstandings about the Shrine of Memory, with the code unclear as to what part of the War Memorial honors those Virginians killed in combat versus those who served and died under other circumstances. This will help the Department of Veterans Services when working with families to honor their loved ones who have died while serving. Representatives from the Department of Veterans Services and the Virginia War Memorial are available to answer any technical questions the chairman and members of the subcommittee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Carr. Do the members have a question for the paper? Sal, would you like to add anything? Okay, I think that speaks for itself. Is anybody in the audience who will speak in favor of the bill? Is there anyone opposed? All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move report.
A motion to report duly seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the members shall cast their vote. Delegate Carr, your bill report 7-0. I believe,
So since the last time the committee heard this bill, there have been some discussions with Mr. Hicks, who represents some of the interest groups who are following this legislation. I believe there's been some substitute language drafted that would serve everyone's agendas. So I saw Chip walk in.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
So I don't know if you have the ability to copy this and pass it out to the members. I can read it. I think essentially what we're going to do is strike out all the amended language as the bill was filed, and then on lines 46 after line 46 reads coverage for the renter for the tenant as part of rent or otherwise provided herein, period. And the new language would be the landlord obtains renter's insurance for his tenants. The landlord shall provide to each tenant prior to the execution of the rental agreement a written summary of the insurance policy or certificate evidencing the coverage being provided, and upon request of the tenant, make available a copy of the insurance policy. The written summary shall include a statement whether such coverage contains a waiver of subrogation provisions. The failure of the landlord to provide such written summary shall not affect the validity of the rental agreement. I believe this gets at part of what I'm trying to accomplish with the bill. I still have maybe some off-duty work to satisfy some other curiosities that I have, but that's essentially what the substitute would do. Again, I know you don't have it in front of you, so I'll help any way I can
I'm a
understand.
little bit of a disadvantage because I would like to see that if I
So-
kind of heard what you said, but.
I know this is your last bill. Again,
We
as I
got a
said.
couple more.
Okay, all right. We can try to get copies. The other alternative, Mr. Chairman, would be to report the bill to the full committee. You can do that with a recommendation, with no recommendation, and we can just make sure that the substitutes are from the full committee when it meets.
He said, full clear that recommendation, our clerk, why don't we just stand down for a second here? We got two.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry, I was
Please.
late arriving. I haven't heard the prior statements of the delegate. However, what I'm interpreting is there may be some work that still needs to be done on a substitute or amendments. If that is done and that is the case, and there is peace in the valley and no opposition, then I'd be willing to consider, having heard it in sub, pulling it out and putting it on a full committee docket for purposes of amendment, but only under those circumstances.
That's the case.
Okay, so, subcommittee's had a hearing on the bill, which is its obligation once the bill is docketed in subcommittee, as you know, it's subcommittee chairman. And so we could look towards Thursday, which will be our last full committee meeting.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna, if I may, I can hand the Division of Legislative Services a copy of what we were talking about, and you can prepare an official substitute, and you have the authority to share it with whoever you want to.
Okay.
Chairman, do you want to hear testimony on the bill, or just that everybody's in agreement?
Please.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, it'd be helpful to hear that, just so when we get to full committee, we can't
Yes,
misrepresent.
sir, we want to, file the same deal twice.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So Chip Dix on behalf of the realtors and the various different stakeholders, the Bureau of Insurance, the property owner community, the landlord, property management committee, everybody's looked at this bill, the substitute. Some of this language is similar to what also came out of House General Laws on House Bill 1660, Delegate Lane's bill. And the additional feature in this bill is that it speaks to the issue of whether or not there's a waiver of subrogation contained in those provisions. So that's what this bill does. I don't believe there's any opposition to the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So again, the subcommittee heard this the other day, and I think they probably recall what prompted me to file legislation. I'm happy to remind the committee of that if they're interested.
Mr. Dick's testimony jogged my memory, so I appreciate that, so thank you. So we'll just, I guess we'll just, any further comment, just see you on Thursday?
So it's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Delegate King.
subcommittee members, I have House Bill 2335, and let me start by asking for a very small line amendment from the clerk. And when you're ready, I can explain the line amendment.
Mr. Chairman, on line 22, after than, strike 1,200 and insert 1,000.
Does everyone have the line amendment? Without objection, the amendment's adopted. W. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to explain why the line amendment was necessary, there's a companion bill on the other side of the chamber that's now coming to this body, and their number is 1,000 hours, and so rather than wait till it comes here and then we try to incorporate the two or what have you, I just thought it would be easier to just make it consistent now. Mr. Chairman, House Bill 2335 is a bill that deals with barbershops and cosmetology schools and the Department of Professional Occupational Regulatory Agency, and this is consistent with what we've been doing over the last few years. In fact, last year I was chief co-patron of a bill with Delegate Weber that would require that all of our government regulations over businesses be reduced by 25%, and other ways to streamline the cost factor of us as government regulating those industries, especially those that don't involve health and safety. We want to make sure that the regulations are as clean and as simple as possible. So in that spirit, what we're doing with this bill is to require that currently under current law, barbers, to become a barber or cosmetology, you need to have 1,500 hours of education, which is quite extensive. And so to reduce it down to 1,000, it would help with trying to get more jobs for folks that want to get into this industry for whom 1,500 hours might be a little too burdensome. So that's really what the bill does, Mr. Chairman. And as you might recall, I had a bill last year that dealt with another aspect of barbers and the hair barber industry. So I'm becoming kind of the resident expert on this issue, and I'm glad to note that at least in this body, there is no member of the Ball Caucus that I'm offending here, but on the floor, I assume that we may end up running afoul with some of our caucus members, and so with your indulgence, I'd be happy to ask folks who work in the industry to explain why they would like to see this change happen. Mr. Chairman.
First, is it, any of the members have any questions for the patron?
Matt Benke with the Reiner Companies. We own Hair Cuttery and other brands. We're based in Tyson's Corner here in Virginia. We own 1,000 storefronts nationwide. Also supportive of us is Great Clips that owns about 4,000 storefronts, and also Sport Clips, which has about 2,000 storefronts. So that's about 7,000 storefronts that are supportive of this. It is very difficult for us to find barbers and cosmetologists nowadays. And we have a couple folks with the company there to testify to that. Thank you for your support.
Mr. Chairman, Rob O'Hannon with Hunt Andrews Kirk here representing the Virginia Retail Merchants Association. A number of our members, including Hair Cuttery, JCPenney, are very supportive of this legislation as well. And like a lot of businesses, they're working to find good qualified people, but also don't want to see too many barriers to entry for those folks. I think this bill will be very helpful.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Amanda Bradley. I currently work for Hair Cuttery as a leader and hairstylist. I work at Tuckahoe Hair Cuttery off Patterson. I've been a licensed cosmetologist for over 4 years. For me, the biggest barrier has always been the number of hours to get into the business. There is no difference in the quality of care for our customers from someone who's trained at 1,000 hours versus somebody who's trained at 1,500. In the state of Virginia, I'm also licensed as a certified nursing assistant, and I was only required to complete 120 classroom hours and clinical hours, and my CNA license allows me to administer life-saving care. I'm sure that it's also very hard for us to find licensed stylists at 1,500 hours in Virginia. I'm sure that most of you have heard that the average schooling for private cosmetology schools cost anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000. I'm hoping to see this reduction with schools that will also reduce their fees. Students build a lot of debt while trying to go to cosmetology school, and lowering the hours required for them to be licensed will provide faster debt payoff for their family, as well as keeping our businesses open. I worked for a couple different salons, and it is hard for all of us to find licensed stylists. So if we could lower that, that would definitely help everyone else. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Joyce Taylor. I am a regional sales leader for Ratner Company Hair Cuttery. I've been in the industry now for about 20 years. And I've been here 20 years and I've never been staffed. So getting 1,500 hours and getting the stylist in the salon has been our #1 opportunity challenge since I've been here. We operate in other states who have less requirements, and from a quality to the guest experience, there really is no difference. We measure this by really looking at from a client perspective and client complaints or that come in, that there is really no difference between Virginia and other states that we operate in. So it would be huge for us to get more stylists behind the chair to be able to take care of the guests that come in the salons, as well as for the salon professional from a getting more people in the schools, through the schools, obtaining more stylists, and them coming out at a financially more rewarding place than where they are currently. Thank you.
Any opposition to the legislation?
Mr. Chairman, Chris Millen with McGuire Woods. It's a great hesitancy. I'm coming here to talk about beauty and hair care. I represent 4 schools, the Ogle School, Beauty Basics, Paul Mitchell School in Roanoke, and the Rudy and Kelly Academy in Virginia Beach. And to be clear, there are 46 states that have a 1,500-hour requirement, just like Virginia's. And you have heard that some states, or the trend is that they're lowering. Well, I'm aware of 3 that have lowered their requirements to the 1,500 that Virginia requires. And make no mistake about this, this is a type of profession that is best learned through not only the education of classroom instruction, but that 1,500 hours also includes actual chair time of dealing with customers and learning their craft. Cosmetology has the highest skin-to-skin contact of any profession outside of the medical field. That's why all 50 states license this profession. Additionally, what you have before you is a proposal to reduce that by a third, from 1,500 to 1,000. And JLARC recently did a study of professions at DPOR, and it made recommendations as to certain professions that should be regulated less or not regulated at all. This was not one of the recommendations that JLARC made in that study. I would also note for you that the National Conference of State Legislatures and the Council of State Governments are working together on a 3-year grant-funded study to look at this profession and occupational licensing generally, I believe, to see if states' efforts at licensing these professions should be reformed and barriers should be reduced. And I would encourage you to think about waiting at least until that study is done, but to be clear, JLARC took a look at DPOR, and this was not one of the recommendations that they made. And these are all fine companies. I frequent one of them. I like paying my $19. I've had the same hairstylist for 18 years. And when I come in, she's the only constant in that facility. There are new people in every chair around there. So it may not be a recruitment problem as much as it is a retention problem. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, you've heard the testimony. I think the national trend is actually going in the other side, which is even though there may be a majority of states now that have 1,500, the ones that have examined it are actually going down to 1,000. There are about 8 or so states now, and that number is decreasing. And Mr. Chairman, I don't need to remind this body, but we don't necessarily care what other states are doing. If it's the right thing for Virginia, we do the right thing for Virginia. And for an area where the government can be smart, efficient, and also streamlined, and to the extent that we can allow for jobs to prosper, I think we should take the lead and not worry about and wait for other states to take the lead for us. And so, with that, I ask you to support this fine jobs bill.
Thank you, Dr. King. Does any other members have any delegate fees?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate King, you had said at the outset that you've never had an issue with safety or health, or that you didn't see this as an issue, or this bill would be dealing in the health and safety arena. Do these barbers and cosmetologists today use scissors and razors around the neck and head area? Do you consider that to be a health and safety issue?
Mr. Chairman, I'd answer the Uber chairman by saying that certainly if you're using any kind of sharp object, it is a dangerous hazard. As we see a lot of sharp objects in various different professions, but just because one uses one doesn't mean all of a sudden it becomes a health and safety issue. Otherwise, every restaurant in America, every business that involves some kind of cutlery or anything else would be at the highest level. But let's put it this way: folks that use a lot of sharp objects, including syringes, like nurses and doctors. Well, doctors are different because they have to go through many years of schools, but nurses have far less hours of training that's required for them to actually use their skills to work with consumers and patients, whereas here we're talking about a haircut. And so I would think that for something like this, 1,000 hours, if you do the math, if you went to school 9 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday for 6 months, that's how much we're talking about, 1,000 hours. That's a lot of time to learn how to use your scissors and knives properly.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up question. You heard a lot of testimony about how it's hard,
Yes, sir.
But I haven't heard any data. Do we have any information on number of vacancies, people in the pipeline, people who have sought to become licensed that denied who would otherwise be accepted if they had 1,000 hours? I mean, what are we going to all of a sudden see now if this bill were passed?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. Les Mardex, who's the general counsel of the Ratner Companies, stated during Senate testimony that if he had enough people, he would probably open 20 to 25 more stores. Just in Virginia, if he had more people to work in those stores. So there's a definite need to have these people there.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question, but I just want to have a comment. After some of these individuals, and I met a couple of them at some event or in a store somewhere, and after I realized or was made aware of the number of hours and the amount of financial debt that they find themselves in after going through the training and paying to go to school, I was taken back to hear that they have to put in 1,500 hours, and when they're completed, possibly about $25,000 in debt is absurd. And I am so glad, Delegate King, that you are working with them to address this and revise this, certainly the compliance issues here. And what we need to do is work even more diligent in the future to even, I think, make it less cumbersome. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Any of the members have any other questions of the patron? The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to report.
Mr. Chairman, substitute motion.
All right, the substitute motion to lay House Bill 2335 on the table. Is there a second? This one will report it. The motion been made and seconded. Members shall vote. 35 is laid on the table. I vote of 4 to 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I believe the last bill before us is my House bill, and so I think I turn this gavel over to Delegate Knight.
Okay, give your attention to Delegate Fowler, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2744. I'm bringing up the bill. The members may remember, I guess, it's been 4 or 5 years ago, legislation was passed, was brought to the War Memorial Board underneath the, I guess the umbrella, I'll call it, the Department of Veterans Services. At that point, the War Memorial Board became basically an advisory board. And so, we've already heard, several bills dealing with the Virginia War Memorial, but what my bill basically does is sunsets the War Memorial, the current War Memorial Board, to expire on January 1st, 2020. Again, we all heard Delegate Hessel's legislation, which the TPS board will absorb a few more members onto that board to kind of look after the Virginia War Memorial, and it also obviously included the foundation chairman as a voting member. So anyway, so that's basically what House Bill 2744 does, is sunset the current board. And again, it's a administration bill, so that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Anyone here to speak in favor of this measure?
Good afternoon. Once again, Carrie Ann Alford with Department of Veteran Services. The agency respectfully requests that we transfer the authority of the Memorial Board to the Board of Veteran Services, as they are now duplicating efforts, and this will be a slight savings to the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Anyone here opposed to this measure? Yes, sir. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Any discussion? Okay, please cast your vote. The measure before the full committee by a vote of 7 to 0. Delegate Fowler, I'll hand the gavel back to you, sir.
Thank you, Delegate Knight. I believe that concludes our docket for today, so the committee will rise.